But that's the thing. I don't believe in breaking segregation because I don't believe it's possible. You can minimize the effects of it, but you can't break it. It's a part of, like, I'm not gonna stand here and just be utopian and like, oh, we need to create the perfect cities and segregation is part of a big city. Crime is part of a big city. Like, there are also bad things that are connected to being like, that's the price we pay to live in a metropolitan area.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Thank you so much, Namo, for giving your time to record this episode.
Thank you.
So the topic is very interesting. It's like one of my absolutely favorite. It's about social sustainability, and I know you're also passionate about the topic, and I would love that in this episode we try to break it down to or some part of it. So before we start, I would love to know more about you. How would you like to introduce yourself, and please tell us, what are you passionate about?
Wow, that's a difficult question. I mean, people always want to put you in boxes somehow, but I don't know how to do that with myself. If I would introduce myself randomly, I would just say I'm a happy person. I like to have fun. But I'm passionate. The reason why I'm here, I guess, is because I promote social sustainability a lot. I believe it's needed and important in urban planning.
Well, it was very diplomatic answer. Tell me more about your background. Where did you grow up? What did you study?
Well, my interest for like social matters, I think it comes from my background as a daughter to immigrants who came to Sweden in 1982 from Kurdistan. So my parents were refugees. And I just think talking about justice and social matters has been like a big part of my life in a very positive sense. Like I've never heard my parents complain about how they came to Sweden, or it's just stories. And I guess because it's been a long time, it's just stories. Like they forget the bad things. But of course, I know that there has been a lot of bad things. Like we were poor when I was a kid, but they never made us feel like we were poor. Like I couldn't see it or feel it because the way they raised us was, I don't know, just day to day, but still maybe they pretended that we had it better than we did, I guess. And I think that mindset has been a part of me also since I've been a kid. I always see the good sides of things. And that's why, like, when I speak about social matters, I always try to see how can we find solutions instead of complaining about what has been. It's important to know, like, the past and the history of things and understand, but how do we move forward? So I guess that's like where my interest comes from. And I grew up in a family where education was important. So I'm from a neighborhood, which is usually, I don't say this, but it's in this context, interesting and important, but like in the Million Program scheme in Sweden, which was, I guess, since you have a lot of international listeners, the Million Program Scheme was a way to diminish like the shortage of apartments in Sweden in late 60s, early 70s. And those areas in Stockholm were the housing areas that were created in Stockholm were inhabited by people from like small towns in Sweden and immigrants. And so it was a mix of people. It was very fun to grow up in a neighborhood like that because it was the social capital was very rich. And then I started studying at KTH in Stockholm. And I became a civil engineer within urban planning, sustainable cities, I guess.
What a long journey, Namo. So in the beginning, you'd be like, I'm a happy person.
Well, I could speak about this for like hours, but
I
don't want to bore you guys with
No, it's very interesting because we always need, the different elements that made Namo today. So if you explain to me, what are you really passionate about?
Well, that's a difficult question. I think the reason why I'm on Earth, because I believe we have, I guess I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I believe we all have a reason for why we're here. And I do think my reason is I feel like I have a responsibility to tell a story that is not heard. And it's not necessarily only like my story, but at the same time, I don't want to represent a bigger group of people. But through my voice, I tell stories for more than just me. And I think what I mean by that is I try to be not a role model, but like a voice for people that feel that they understand me and my story and they feel the same. And they had similar backgrounds. And I do that also. I do music. So that's the reason for me making music is because I want to tell a story. It's not about me being an artist because I'm not interested in being famous, but it gives me a platform to speak up about injustice and just telling everyday life stories, I guess.
So your why on this planet is that you share people's stories, express these stories, maybe unheard stories as well.
Yeah, I think maybe my body is what do you call it? Like through my body, stories comes out, and it's not necessarily my stories. Does it make sense?
I got you. Like you're kind of, how to say, this story distributor.
A channel, like I'm a channel.
Yeah, a human channel.
A human channel. Like I think a lot of people are channels, and I think a lot of people have this reason for being on Earth. But like I feel like that's my responsibility to also connect people through my platform. And at the end of the day is just, for me, social sustainability is just about making people feel like they are included and can have like the keys to the city and feel like they are a part of a bigger thing. It doesn't mean that everyone wants to live in the city center or in like American suburbs or the dream house or whatever. It's just about you being able to live in a place where you can be happy and a place where you can choose to do things.
Will you define social sustainability in the same way if I ask you as a Namo, as an urban planner?
Yeah, I would. Like it's about well-being, like as an individual and as a group, to feel like they can be a part of a system, which here is a democratic system. Like they can feel like they can speak up about things without being neglected, because those in power, they already have the keys to the city. So for me, social sustainability is planning for those who don't have the keys. And that's something that we forget a lot of times. When we plan cities, we don't plan for people. We plan for other interests. And I just want to go back to doing that, I guess. I assume that that's how the ancient people planned their places before we became like cities and civilized around a city. Just like how can we thrive and be good people?
Very interesting. So you mean planners were planning cities for people, and then there was a gap, and that's how segregation in the cities became?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily mean planners planning, but like before planners even existed. Like how do societies that are not a part of like the urban realm, how do they plan their life around? In like a very basic, I just want that mindset to be a part of our system and the planning system in big cities.
Because you grow up in Stockholm, right? Do you feel that Stockholm is still segregated?
It's funny how you say still segregated, because I think that it's never been this segregated ever. I guess it's just getting more and more segregated, and we just try to find ways to like remove segregation or break segregation, but I don't believe that's possible. I don't believe in breaking segregation because it's already done. Like we already created these places. The issue is we have to learn from the Million Program scheme was necessary, and there's a lot of qualities. So when we speak about segregation in Stockholm, we usually, or in Sweden in general, and I think more in the media than in research and universities. So in media and like everyday conversations, segregation is spoken as if it was only like the low income areas where people of other backgrounds than Swedish live. As if they chose to be segregated from a norm or something. But it's never the people's fault. They are not, like when we speak about it in a wrong sense. And for something to be segregated, there has to be something else. So you can't just be segregated from nothing. So there are also like affluent areas that are segregated, but we never speak about those areas as segregated. So the term has become a negative term and is connected with the people living in an area. So it's not the geographical area per se. You even speak about like Rosengård in Malmö, which is a city that is, in quotes, segregated, but it's 5 minutes from the city center. So it's very like, it would take a lot of time to explain these different things, like how media sees it and how the actual term is. Because the word that I was trying to translate to English is also a term coined by the police in Sweden. And that has a lot of like friction as well. So how do we see these people? Are they not worthy people? They only come from segregated areas. So yeah, exactly. And that's why it's hard to break segregation, because it's not connected to the place. Mostly it's connected to the people, and how people in these areas, they also have more difficulties to get into the working
market.
They have other difficulties when they go to hospitals or when they visit doctors, or like language in Sweden is something that if you don't know how to pronounce things, people will think you're stupid. It's crazy, but that's how it is. Like, I've been with my mother to the doctors, and my mom has been in Sweden for 30 years. She's not stupid, like never. But I've seen how they speak to her as if she's deaf, and they scream and try to articulate. And it's funny, like how language is also a barrier. I always talk about the difference between mental segregation and the physical segregation. So for me to, whatever, if you want to call it, break segregation, you have to break so many barriers in society, because it's about giving people the right to having, again, a good life, like where they can get a job, where they can go to school and get good grades. All these things matter. So when it is segregated also geographically, but that's not the biggest issue here, because we have very good transport in Stockholm. Like, you can travel by subway very fast through the city. There's good bus systems. So that's not the issue. It's more like, why are these areas, when you visit these areas, why does it look like nobody cares about the built environment even? It's strange, because the Million Program Scheme, you can find those houses in the city center as well, but nobody sees them as these are segregated areas. So it's interesting, because there's not an answer. I don't believe that we can break whatever we have created unless we change the system into being in favor for also the people that are not a part of the norm. Or that's why it's so important for me to tell stories, because if we don't hear the stories, who's gonna change the situation? So we haven't been proactive, and now we're being reactive. But instead of like being nervous about, oh, what did we do wrong? Just learn, accept, and admit that we did wrong, and do better for like the coming generation. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So how to say, it's very interesting the way you look at the segregation. It's not a matter of urban planning anymore or architecture anymore. It's more that about the community, the society, the people, the system. It's much more bigger than urban planners.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we do have, it has to do with urban planning as well, but there is no way we can solve these big questions with urban planning. We're just a part of a political system. There is I don't know. There is like a belief in more and more in Sweden that the market is going to solve everything. Like if we look at how we sold a lot of like we don't call it social housing in Sweden, but allmännyttan. Like, it's supposed to be for the bigger,
for the citizen, or for people's good, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, for the people's good, I guess. Apartments for everyone, basically. And this system is very special and very, like, I think it's something that I'm very proud of. When I speak to other people in different countries and cities, I'm very proud of like the Swedish way of planning, and especially allmännyttan, like the housing for the greater good, which was sold out. And in the 90s, the politics of buildings changed in Sweden. And we see the effects even today, like how they sell a lot of housing to private companies. I do believe we need a mix, but we cannot just let everything go and let the market rule. And these forces are much more stronger than just the work that an urban planner does. Like we are part of a political system. But like my belief is that in every project, I try to see small things where I can make changes. And that's very important and I see that in a lot of urban planners here, and a lot of like colleagues that I've been working with in different places. They really want to create cities for people, but it's difficult. Like there's a lot of actors involved in planning a city, or when we say building a city, what is that? Like,
yeah,
it's a big thing.
Yeah. And, I guess you heard many times about, the city is a hardware and software. Hardware is the physical built environment, and the software is that the community, the different programs. So how we as an urban planner can activate the software? Do you think there is a possibility for us? Like, can we suggest, okay, that's how you create life in between buildings? Because it's not anymore about the material and physical and the dimensions.
I mean, if we would go back to talking about these so-called segregated areas, there is usually a very rich social capital. And how do we create that? Like, how do we learn from these things that we actually think is bad places, or I don't, but like the mass? How do we learn from that? Like, why is it okay to get food from your neighbor in Tiensta, and like your mother knows the whole neighborhood and everyone knows your mother, but it's not okay in other places because you don't even say hi to your neighbors? Like, how was that created? Like, why don't we learn from that? Or why don't we learn from, for instance, I remembered when traveling to Brazil, I was in a favela in Rio de Janeiro, and I was like, how can we learn from this? Like, these social codes and like, there's a lot of things that are functioning. They've created a society that is basically because they had to, they're forced to, but they do it. And there's a lot of good things to bring. I always say that social matters and social sustainability is like based on the context that you're in. So there's no like universal solution, obviously. But I think a lot of these things happen by chance. But I think that we can learn and translate it to how do we build these things. Because also, like, we live in a very affluent city, but at the same time, the gap is bigger between the richest and the poorest. Just because statistics tells us that, like, oh, people are making money in Stockholm and there's still a bigger part of society that is poorer. So how do we, through these soft things, minimize the gap?
Yeah. So I will try to reformulate my question now, and hopefully I will get an answer from you.
I'm a politician.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. How can an urban planner break down a segregation?
But that's the thing. I don't believe in breaking segregation because I don't believe it's possible. You can minimize the effects of it, but you can't break it. It's a part of, like, I'm not going to stand here and just be utopian and like, oh, we need to create the perfect cities. And segregation is part of a big city. Crime is part of a big city. Like, there are also bad things that are connected to being, like, that's the price we pay to live in a metropolitan area. But I believe we can minimize it through the way we think, like the mindset of how we think. But it's so difficult because at the same time we're part of the political, like, there's a monopoly in planning. So the politicians are the ones that decide the end results. However, we can do our best to create good places for people. And I know that the municipalities, like the urban planners at the municipalities, I know that, especially in Stockholm, because I used to work there. Like I know that they want to create good places for people. And I know you want like specific answers of what tools and
yeah, this is what I'm trying to get, but it seems like it's a kind of impossible in your case.
I guess I'm not trying to be negative, but I believe like we can plan neighborhoods in ways that are like trying to, I think architecture and urban planning, like we have a lot of power to create form and function so people can meet, like, but at the same time it's based on the context, like what people are going to move in here, so we need to understand the people. It's interesting for the reason why I like can't answer you. For instance, like Hammarby Sjöstad is a well-known project even internationally
for sustainability,
mostly like environmental sustainability. And it was created as an Olympic city. So Stockholm wanted to become an Olympic city. So they created an environmental perfect neighborhood, like on paper. And it became good in that sense. But what happened with the social sustainability? Like it was expensive to move in. It was very like the same people that moved in. But now what I've been trying to understand with that area is that the more time that passes by, the more I like it. Because like with time, things get better somehow because they get some pathos or whatever, like they get soul. So you can't create soul. So it's difficult for me to answer like what tools, because I don't know how to create soul. That happens because it's the people that creates it for the area. But of course, like creating open buildings that are not like backsides and those like traditional things, that's very much an architectural and urban planning matter, like things that we can
affect.
Yeah, that we can affect, I guess.
Yeah, well, Namo, I just wanted to say thank you that you're super honest and just giving answers from your heart. This is.
But I have to, like, I can't pretend that we can create the perfect city. We have to accept that there's bad things in cities as well.
And this is why you're here. This is why you're here, because we always need new ways of thinking or to get inspired. And now I'm also inspired by your answers, even if they are not the answer that I was thinking or planning to get at least, you know, like when I prepare questions, I will like, okay, according to her background, I checked LinkedIn, you know, your project, I will get this kind of answer, which is fine. But then, of course, the platform is open to you, but now you're very transparent, honest, and inspiring, to be honest. So yeah, so like a big thanks to you.
Thank you.
and now is how to say, now I'm so curious to get the answer for this question. You know, in Urbanistica, the aim is discuss what is smart city from different point of views. I see you. I see you. Yeah. So tell me first, how do you define a smart city?
Well, I mean, this is this is something I struggle with a lot, trying to understand the benefits of what a smart city is. Like, what is a smart city? You're asking me. I don't know. Is a smart city a place where technology saves us from all the bad things? Is it a place where we use smart tools to make us be more happy. Like, I don't know how to answer that question, but if you would ask me what Namo thinks a smart city is a place where it begins with the people again. And I've never been a believer in that technology will save the human race from disaster. I mean, we've already used up so much of the planet. And again, to be able to create a place where we cannot, like, how do I say this? Disguise what we have done to the planet through technology. Like, we are, again, reactive. But I think it's important to own the story, like to own what we have done and to move on to better things. So I believe, like, okay, we can use smart solutions and technology as tools, but we are sort of the core of what innovation is, because we create innovation, right? So innovation is in our heads. Innovation is not the thing that you create. It's the process. So for me, a smart city is where people actually are smart about creating sustainable places. And when I mean sustainable places, I just mean sustainable for the human race. And if we do that, the planet will also be taken care of. Because you always say, like, your body is your temple. Like, what you eat is what you become somehow. But the planet is our temple as well. Like, everything that lives on Earth. Earth is our temple. So I just think we need to be smart about creating a sustainable planet for the people and the animals and the plants. That's a smart city for me. Like, being smart, actually.
Like the people are smart in doing smart things.
Yeah.
So do you believe that technology will solve our social problems? I'm a bit afraid of mentioning will break down the segregation.
No, please do. Please ask questions, because that makes me think.
Will our smart technology in the future solve our segregation problem and bring the different groups together?
No. Like, I don't even see how we've always been segregated. I think it's a part of the human race. Segregation is not the problem. The problem is not giving people the same opportunities and possibilities to become whatever or whoever they want to be. The problem is that we don't value some people because they come from a different background, or they're Black, or they're gay, or they have other, like, minority aspects that are not part of them. That's the issue. The issue is not like the word being segregated from each other. It doesn't have to be bad. It's just the injustice that follows. People sometimes ask me, like, oh, what do you think about gentrification and, like, areas being gentrified? Well, the result of gentrification is people are being displaced. So it's bad. I don't care if it makes an area thrive economically, or that it's nice to be there. I mean, I do enjoy going to hipster areas, or whatever you want to call it. But I also know that in some countries, it's actually a huge problem. So I don't know. Maybe I don't think technology is, it's only a tool for me. Like, and I do think a lot of people agree with that. Like, technology is a tool, but still, when we speak about smart cities, it's like, oh, we're going to do this and that, and like science fiction. And I don't know.
So you don't imagine this smart city happening in the nearest future?
Well, yeah, I do believe like we're already on the way. We can't stop it, I guess. But will it solve things? I don't know. I mean, okay, give me a concrete example of like, okay, will this thing
Like technology, how technology gonna solve communities? No, to be honest, like I don't have so many in mind, but like recently I saw so many hackathons doing these kind of platforms that people can, how to say, ask help from each other, sharing tools. I believe this brings a kind of different people together somehow. Like, I don't know. I have a belief in this, but
again, it's a tool. And I do like the idea of bringing people together. But again, we can't. What about the people that can't, that don't have time, that has 3 part-time jobs? We still have to plan cities for these people. Or like low income, or you get my points.
I got your point. And also I was in a jury of different hackathons, and this is the question that I was actually asking. You remind me now. So because all the target groups are people with find good income and happy life.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, how about the others that we don't see?
Exactly. Like when did there's so many ways to describe it, and I was just gonna say like, so when did Fatima, who is 65 from, I don't know, Kalla, when did she get a chance to say what she wanted to say? Like how do we create platforms? But not only like, usually when these things happen, it's a platform that collect like only for the people in these segregated areas. But we need to bring different people together.
Yeah.
And know why we do it, not just to like
not just
pink
because
wash or green. Yeah, not just because. Why do we do it? But also like in boardrooms where the decisions are being made, in like in politics, do we have good representation? No, we don't. Like, who are the people that are making, are the like the decision makers? They will always think from their own perspective. It doesn't matter if you say, but they're objective, and no, they represent themselves firsthand, because it's not wrong. I mean, but we just need more representation so we can mix up.
Yes, I got your point. And share with us why you do music as well. And when did this started?
I started doing music very early, I think. I think it comes from, I started in a choir when I was 6. So I started to sing in a choir in Akalla, where I am born. And then I started playing piano, and then I understood that writing was this was my interest. So I started writing poetry, and I wanted to become like my father, because he writes a lot and he's a poet. And I remember I think I was 9 when I wrote my first poem. It was about 3 flowers, like I still remember it. But then I started with spoken word, and eventually I started rapping, because also that was the language of how I could express myself. Because rap and hip hop comes from a place where you speak about your everyday life issues, but still those stories that are heard are not, they're extravagant for other people because it's not part of the norm. So I just felt like that was the medium for me. It just happened naturally, I guess. So yeah, I was telling stories about everyday life, and some songs are fun and some songs are more like, I don't know. I don't want to say political because it's just like everyday life, but in other people's ears, it's political. So that's how they.
But are you talking about like segregation and such stuff, or talking about love and money and cars?
Both. And I do it like I can talk about money and cars in a sarcastic way because we didn't have it. So like you want to flaunt in a way, but I also talk about I guess I speak about segregation and like police brutality, but I do it in fun ways. So I always try to bring in humor in the music so I can fool the big mass to listen to my message.
I listen to your songs and I really enjoy them. And I got like this question. How do you get inspired from your music side to urban planning side? Is there a link between them? Or like Namo music is another Namo than the urban planner?
I mean, I don't think there is a direct connection between the two. I usually say that I'm not just one thing, but I guess I'm just like, I have one way of thinking and I use that way of thinking in everything I do. I even remember when like taking math tests, I got the right answers, but like I didn't use the right methods. So sometimes I wouldn't get.
Did you cheat?
I never cheated, actually. I have very high morals when it comes to knowledge. Would they take away my exam if I said I cheated? I'm joking. No, I didn't cheat. But yeah, like that, when I don't know something, I always find a solution to find an answer somehow. And I just think that's the way I've been my whole life. When I start something, I don't know how it's going to end, but I know it's going to end well somehow.
Yeah, especially if you do it from your heart, then.
Yeah, I guess, because I think like you say that I answer with my heart. It's because when I open my mouth, I don't know what's going to come out. Like I didn't plan my answers. It's just like whatever is on my mind, I say it, I guess. And it's worked. Like it worked so far.
Yeah. So far, you're not in trouble.
Yeah.
Now you got a new job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And did they tell you that, okay, you should stop doing music because now you're like a formal urban planner and you have a full-time job, or how is it?
No, I think they love that I do music as well, or they don't care. Like it's not a thing. And that makes me very happy. Like I've been very warmly welcomed, if that's a word. So yeah, no, there is no conflict.
That's really beautiful to hear. Will we hear more songs about urban planning?
No, maybe, I don't know. When I start writing a song, I don't know what it's going to be about. So you never know.
Yeah. We will never talk, life in between
buildings.
And
no, I mean, I
the
think
dimension between the two doors and the facade and the windows, ceilings high. And
would anyone listen? I don't know. New genre. But yeah, it feels nice.
Yeah. No, it's good to see. It's good to see your passion on different fields, not only, let's say, talking urban planning or just music. It's really beautiful to see that you're doing so different things. And yeah, so now I got my, your smart city point of view. And now we're going to take the time machine and go back in time. You decide when back in time. And also you're going to decide you will change one thing related to cities. What will you change?
I usually don't read questions. So I read this question today just before I came. But it's, like for myself as a person, because I think everything moves in cycles. And, where am I going with this? Like a life is a cycle. but there's also bigger cycles. So like Earth spinning cycle. The day is a cycle. The month is a cycle. And I never feel like I want to change things that have been in my own life because I want to learn from them. So that's how I would answer your question, but I'm going to give you a more fun answer, I guess. I would, but I mean, have you seen that Simpson episode?
Which one of them?
Where they do something and all of a sudden there's like raining donuts. So they go back in time, they change something, and all of a sudden donuts is pouring down. So I believe, what if we go back in time and change something and we just destroy everything? But I guess, are we talking Stockholm or?
No, we're talking cities in general. You can specify. You can choose Stockholm if you want. If you have a story to change in Stockholm.
Okay, so I would change. The cities are planned by men, for men. So I would change that. I would have made cities planned by women for everyone. See the difference? Because they wouldn't plan cities for only women. And even if, it would have been good for everyone. So yeah, I think that would be my main change.
And what if you go to the far future and you will add something to all the cities? What will you add? We're not talking about 10 years, no, like really far future. What will you add to all the cities on this planet?
The first thing that came to my head, this is very unnecessary and bizarre, but I love the Eiffel Tower. I don't know what happens. Like, I need to explain. Something happens in my body every time I see it. I fall in love with. At the same time, maybe I don't want Eiffel Tower in every city, because then the effect
will lose.
The effect. But it will be. It's nice. Like, you can see the Eiffel Tower from everywhere in Paris if you're high up enough.
So you will add the.
But I should have done something more that has a good effect on people.
You decide. It's up to you. It's up to you. You know, like people in 100 years, they will listen back to this.
And there will be an Eiffel Tower in every city, and they will be like, wow, Namo was like Nostradamus. She knew.
Interesting answers. So yeah, again, I really enjoyed the conversation, and here we arrive almost to the end. Hopefully this is like first episode, and I'm looking forward more episodes.
Yes.
It's very inspiring to talk to you.
Thank you.
So music, urban planning, social sustainability. Apart from all these, what are your hobbies? What do you do?
What do I do? I love cooking food.
Kurdish food?
Kurdish food. 2 days ago, I was cooking something called kubba. You know what that is? The yellow ones. It's actually like an Iraqi recipe.
Yeah.
But we eat it as well. I was cooking that until like 11 in the evening, because it takes a long time.
Yes,
you're
this is the
supposed
problem.
You're supposed to do like a lot. You can't just do 5 or 10.
No, you
have
need
to fill
do
the
like,
freezer.
Because like it's a project, you know?
Yeah. So you should look up kubba. It's really nice. So I like to cook. What else? I draw sometimes. I just like to spend time with myself. That's a hobby. I learned now during Corona how valuable it is to be by yourself. Because I usually get very, very tired after social settings, even for like 1-2 hours.
Okay.
So I can get tired for like days after. So I value my own time and my close friends. I like laughing is my hobby. That's what I do.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Namo, now I would love to ask you, What are your 3 takeaway messages to all the listeners?
Don't be. Why would I start a takeaway thing with don't be? I should say be. Be a good person to everyone around you. Like what I wanted to say is like, don't be selfish and individualistic. And I mean that even in like planning. If we have that mindset, I think cities would be nicer to be in. Number 2, obviously these are things I'm just saying this in my head. I haven't thought about what I'm saying right now. Second is everyone, like, don't blame others for mistakes. Like, take responsibilities for your own actions. Because usually when something happens, we always blame something else or others. Like, always look inside and see what you did wrong and how you can be better. And third thing is, don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to have fun. Like everything, even if we speak about issues as segregation in cities, and we still have to have fun. Like, it's heavy things, but we don't have to be cynical or become depressed. There's always a solution and a way forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Namo.
Thank you.
Very powerful takeaway messages. And I need 3 hashtags as well.
Ooh.
Seems like you really like hashtagging.
I used to be a good, no, because I always make up own hashtags. And when you press it, there's like only my picture.
Nobody is.
Exactly.
Nobody cares.
Exactly. Existing hashtags or.
You decide. But something so people can really listen to this.
You're giving me an impossible task.
Come on, you just mentioned that everything is possible. we can solve everything. Just laugh and have fun.
What are you going to do with these hashtags?
These I will write when I publish the episode, so people can reach, can maybe, if they click on this, so they will listen to you. Okay,
hashtag Lila Namo.
Oh, now we are talking.
Which is my rap name. Hashtag social sustainability. And also hashtag segregation. I don't know what's under that hashtag. That would be interesting.
It's going to be interesting, actually. Yeah. And also, Namo, I have a last question. When are you coming back to tell stories from your podcast? Because this is, I'm really encourage you to do it, actually, because we need more voices to express different stories. So when are you planning to come back?
Well, I mean, now that because you said it before we started recording as well, and now you mentioned it again. So I feel like I have to do it ASAP to start my podcast again, because it's been on hold because of Corona. But that's not an excuse.
Thank you, Namo.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.